Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Renewal Podcast. I am Israel Wayne, and our guest this week is Dr. Lisa Dunne. She is an author, she is an academic, she has been involved in many different facets of education and higher learning, which we are going to be talking about in this broadcast. But Lisa, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Israel.
Well, one of the first questions that I want to ask you is about your educational background, and let me lay the groundwork for kind of why I'm asking you to go back. You are a bit of a conundrum, I think, as it relates to this issue of education, because you are someone who has been deeply entrenched in academia, and yet you're very critical of institutional schooling. And so I find that fascinating because obviously a lot of people who have spent as much time as you have being schooled are great advocates of the process. And yet you are a critic in many ways of the process and how it's commonly done. And so I would like for you to go back and tell us about your own educational upbringing and how that began to shape the way that you viewed institutional schooling. And then, of course, I want to lead up to today and kind of what you're doing today. But let's go back to when you were young. Your own schooling experience shaped how you began to see the value or lack of institutional schooling in your own life.
Yeah, fantastic question. I love being a conundrum. That's really fun. I am a little bit of an anomaly in that regard. So when I was a child, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I went to traditional schools. All my family was public schooled, and public school superintendents and teachers, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And my whole upbringing is a whole other podcast. But I had a few mentors throughout my time who really, my time in traditional school, who spoke into me. And when I got to grad school, I had these people who, it kind of gave me a mirror of what education could be like. I didn't know yet that there were other options. I didn't know Thomas Jefferson's ideology that it's just classics and a mentor, that's all it takes. I didn't know that. But I started feeling this hunger for this connection. And when I got to my last years of grad school, I had an opportunity to work in this kind of one-to-one mentor format. And at this point, I had already jumped into the homeschooling. I started when my kids were young. I saw the traditional model when my son, we moved to California, the battlefront of education. And I thought, well, I guess you put your kids in a private school. And so we put him in this private, pricey school in kindergarten. And he came back with feminist ideology, completely unbiblical foundations. And so we went in and said, what is this teacher teaching? And, she was all of 23 years old, had no kids, and had just graduated from the state indoctrination center down the street, the public university. And so, of course, she was espousing everything she learned. And so all these things, we met this homeschool family and saw this incredible fruit in their lives. And so we literally just jumped in right there, had no knowledge, no background, no idea, but God was preparing me with all of these educational fractures. And I know a lot of people on your show realize that the content is broken in education. We're all aware of that. It's completely secular, pagan ideology. You can't make an excuse for that. I mean, evolution is taught in every subject for the last 60 years. No excuse. But what people also don't realize is it's not just public, but it's traditional. The traditional educational methodology in itself is broken. It's a lecture focused. It's rote memorization that means nothing in the real world, and certainly nothing in the biblical worldview, which is the most important part. So I'm a critic of the process because I've seen not only how broken it is, but the great thing, Israel, is that it's a solvable problem. We literally have the answer right here in our hands.
So you mentioned two different things here. You talked about content, but then you also talked about methodology. And you see both of those as being problematic within particularly institutional government schooling. The content is concerning, and that's a little easier for most of us to think through and to be able to see the problems. I would like for you to just take a moment, though, and mention what you see as being some of the top problems within the government school paradigm from the content standpoint. Whereas, a lot of parents feel as though their school is different. Their school is the exception. Their school is one of the best schools. In fact, they moved there to be close to that school because they're in a good school district. And so they tend to feel as though their student is in some sort of a Mayberry Leave It to Beaver situation. I know that's not true, but what are some of the situations that you see that are creating a problem?
Yeah, I know it's very difficult for us to face the truth about that, especially if we grew up in a small town America kind of city and we feel like, oh, it's the same. It is not the same. And those seeds were already planted in the 70s. We were already seeing that harvest come to pass. But some of the most concerning things, and when I talk about the content piece, I say the 12 toxic traits of traditional education. And I think it's important to say traditional because it's not just public government schools. It is also traditional schools that are secular textbooks with a Jesus bumper sticker on the front, trying to masquerade as Christian. And I'm sorry, that's not the biblical worldview of education. And so in my book, Outsourced, I talk about the 12 toxic traits. And some of those are, we look at the fruit of what's happening, most anxious, depressed, atheist generation in the history of America. You look at the founding documents of our country and where we are today, our founding fathers would be crying. They would be sobbing to see what we have allowed to transpire on our watch as parents. We have the least resilient generation. We call them snowflakes, the snowflake generation. We have students who have been trained up in atheism, in Marxism, in CRT, which is completely creating these two classes of people you can never escape from them. I've got some great interviews on that on my podcast too. I'll be happy to share with you. But there's two classes of people. So you've got this victim and oppressor mentality rolling through the school systems, extensive bullying. The ways that kids are being bullied today with cyberbullying, it's so evil. And I don't even think it's on the radar of most parents. And of course, the trans agenda. And, I was praying for the show this morning, Israel, and I was just thinking about, in the medical community, we'll say, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And, if there's a trans flag going up at your district, which is happening all around us in our city in San Diego, that's the symptom. The allegiance is already there. The indoctrination has already been taking place. That's just the final stake in the ground. So we have to get to it before it gets to that point. But a lot of parents want to believe that, they're in this, and it looks safe and cute and beautiful from the outside. And you may have a teacher who's a Christian, but, I talk to teachers all the time and they all know what they're yoked to. In our district, they have to stand with a sign behind them that says, I'm a supporter of LGBTQIA+. Behind them to say, I'm for you, I'm here. They put a little heart emoji out and say, I'm here for you. The indoctrination is so real. The enemy is after our children. He's always been after the seed of Adam. That's not new. But the toxic traits of traditional education are literally destroying. They're dumbing us down. Part of the methodology piece is the creating of drones. Neil Postman did a study where he, in the 70s, already in public school, where he looked at what types of questions are asked in the classroom. And they were 96% of them were administrative questions. Those are questions like, how do I hold my pencil? What must I do to get an A? What is your favorite, whatever? They wanted to know how the teacher thought so that they could parrot what she or he said. That's not education. That's very different from, sitting around the living room with my kids, reading a classic novel and asking them questions. What does that speak to you? What do you relate to in that? What verse does that tie into? How do we know that is not a biblical worldview? That's thinking. That's critical thinking. And we wonder why we have this generation of drones that are addicted to groupthink. They can't even think individually. This is the long, slow process of traditional education, the fruit. So as parents, we have to look at the fruit. What's happening in our kids? Are they anxious? Are they depressed? Are they peer-oriented? That's one of the biggest challenges parents are not even aware of, but kids are not attached to their parents anymore. They're attached to their peers. In fact, in our conference, we have a homeschool conference coming up this next month, and we're going to be talking about attachment and why attachment is broken in the current generation, and how if peers are getting more time with their kids than the parents are, then that attachment piece, that beautifully designed piece that God put together in us biochemically, that's going to be broken. And so we're going to be doing some training on that, helping parents restore Luke 1:17, the hearts of the fathers to the children and the children of the fathers.
That is fabulous. Dr. Dunn's book is called Outsourced: Why America's Kids Need an Education Revolution. This is a revolutionary book. And one of the concepts that you talk about in the book is how the schools create a scenario with students where they are basically subjugated to this position of not wanting to ask, not wanting to inquire, being taught conformity and submission to the authority structure. Yeah, can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's, when we look at, I know we compare this often to Hitler. It is not overly dramatic at all. You can look at all the studies, and the exact way that Hitler took his country was by this systematic conformity, crushing all the opponents of youth groups, and by it took 9 years, but 87% of 10 to 18-year-olds under his command. And so this piece of conformity, this groupthink modality, this and obviously there are other systems, mass media and social media, all these systems that are saying all the same things. They're all saying the same message. That's where we should have our eyes open and wake up. But when we look at this conformity piece, it's really concerning because God's created us as individuals. He said in Psalm 139 that he knit us together in our mother's womb, that his eyes saw our unformed body, and that every day ordained for us was written in his book before one of them came to be. And this beautiful individuality that he's created us. We just look at churches, how we each bring, I think of churches in my city, they each have something that they're really wonderful at, and coming together, then you're magnifying the name of Jesus, right? And that's how it should be with us and with our children. We're not supposed to create all these clones. We're supposed to raise them up to be who they are in the image of Jesus. But the system is focused on this conformity, and they use the word diversity, which is so ironic because the true nature of diversity, of course, is nothing like the conformist ideology that they're manufacturing in the traditional school system. It's just so ironic. And so to help our kids break free from that, we have to teach them. There's a great study on a teacher in a traditional school, government school, teaching a child, saying, learning to draw and saying, draw a flower. And the child draws a flower. It's a beautiful flower. She says, oh, no. What I mean is draw a flower. And she, draws what she thinks is a flower. And after a year of that ideology, the child can't, if you say draw a flower and give him a piece of paper, he just stares at you. Well, show me what a flower is. Well, that's the ultimate groupthink conformist ideology that's happening. And the flower may seem like a benign example, but that's happening in every worldview, in every topic, in every subject. Every academic subject has some trace of this worldview, and it is turning the hearts of our kids away from faith and family. And so I call parents and pastors to step up. I work with pastors all across the nation, helping them open their doors to church, to the homeschool community. And what I mean by that is because millennials were raised in this groupthink environment, they're very community centric. They feel like they need people around them. And there's an element of that. Obviously, we need people, but their need is different from other generations. And so I have pastors open their doors, and I teach them how to call in homeschool community, how to open their doors and have a place for them to come together 1 day a week, 2 days a week, to connect with each other, to inspire each other. And it is incredible what's happening right now. Israel are kind of doing this whole movement, Save the Next Generation. And I just started one in Trenton, New Jersey yesterday, one in Springfield, Oregon last week. So we're just calling them out to reach their community, because if you're standing at the front of your church, that the 18 to 25s are gone. That they were forced to go to church through high school, and as soon as they graduate, and of course they go to college, even if they were raised in a Christian home, they walk away, the vast majority by the end of their freshman year. So we lost that generation. And I think as a pastor, you have to be aware of that and want to do something about it. So that's part of our mission at Chula Vista Christian University is helping pastors take their reins back. And a lot of them will say to me, what if I offend, what if I offend a teacher? The teachers already know, they already know that it's broken. And many of them, they want out, but they don't know what to do. And so here you create this beautiful opportunity to get them out, get your parents out. There's no reason. I mean, I did the stats on California. I probably talked with you about this the last time we saw each other, but if 75% of our churches would take in 260 kids, we'd shut down public schools tomorrow. they would be closed, which is what needs to happen. It's not a mend them thing. Mending them hasn't worked. Parents have been stomping their feet at school board meetings since evolution, 1968. Where is it? It's embedded in every single subject in the curricula, every single subject, even in Christian education. It's remarkable. And so there's no excuse for us. We can step out. And that's the big thing, is the problem is solvable. It's a solvable problem.
It's fascinating. I just am curious if you know, and it's always hard to be introspective and to self-analyze, but you grew up in the educational matrix, inside of the group think box, if you will, and somehow you escaped the matrix, and now you're standing outside of it, not only critiquing it, but warning others about it. How did you get out? You know?
Well, I had those few great mentors, like at Regent University. I had a professor who said he was a sojourner with us on the educational process, and he cared what we thought. I'd never had an adult tell me that before. I didn't grow up in a Christian home, didn't grow up in even really a home. And so I had never had anybody say that to me. I care what you think. And it shifted things for me. It made me start thinking. And then I began reading all of these, critical thinkers on the process of education, and God just lined all of this up for me. By the time I got to graduate school, it was a one-to-one model. In graduate school, you're supposed to contribute to your field rather than just be, soaking in knowledge of other people. So it kind of is geared a little towards that, if it's well established in terms of that foundation. But I really, everything I do, I look at the Word. The Word is my plumb line for everything. It's when I'm thinking through, I know that every answer of every problem is in the Word, even if it's not used the same terms that maybe we use today. It is in there, and all you have to do is dig and ask the Holy Spirit for help. I'm totally convinced of that. And so when I make a decision about something, when I read, for example, Kevin Novak's book, Abolition, he put into words what we all knew as believers. We knew there was no jurisdiction for the government to take our kids into any kind of educational setting, no jurisdiction at all. But he put it into words so beautifully. My kids laugh because I'll say I'm mentored by dead people, because a lot of the books that I read are people who they're way outside my generational lens, but they saw things coming that I didn't see, that I couldn't have seen. And they're warning signs. George Barnes' work is a warning sign. If parents will work, like Ken Ham's work, warning sign. I mean, there are warning signs all around. And the cognitive dissonance piece is we don't want to believe it. We want to think our neighborhood, public schools with a sweet little teacher waiting outside for me is God's plan. There's no evidence. There's zero evidence. I would ask parents early on in Israel, I would ask them, read Deuteronomy 6:6 to them, 6:12, and ask them, how often do you, as a parent, read and discuss the Bible with your kids? How often do you read the Bible with your kids? And they would always answer me this: well, they go to Sunday school. Well, they go to Awanas. No, hold on. I asked, how often do you? And it was such a paradigm shift. I know it seems so simple to us, but no one had told them, they hadn't ingested this idea that they were literally responsible. Literally, the mantle for discipleship is on the parents' shoulders. And so now what we're watching happening, I mean, you've been in this long time like me. I think we met probably 15 years ago at a Scope conference in Sacramento, I think is where we first met. So you've seen the same thing I have, where all of a sudden parents they're aware. And many of them are not only aware, but they're courageous and they're ready to step up. And so now those same parents that 2 years ago, they were not cracking the Bible open. Now they're sitting around the table, they're talking, they've stepped out of the educational rat race, which is really important. If you're homeschooling, homeschooling is not schooling at home, copy everything the public school or even the traditional private school did. It's a relational model. Parents are shocked when I tell them 3 hours to get this way better performance out of your kids, a way better spiritual thermometer. If you could invest 3 hours in your kid's life, really 3 hours, it's amazing. And this is a mind shift for people who are coming out of, they've never, read a book with their kids. They've never discipled their kids. They've definitely never studied the Word together. And so I'm personally very encouraged because I see the culture shifting, and this is what it takes. And I believe, again, I have 5 college degrees. I'm not anti-education, but because you can educate yourself in the right way, which is basically what you do, reading and discussing. Really, that's what grad school is too. a good grad school. But I am convinced, as a 20-year veteran of higher education, as now a university president, that homeschooling is the most effective methodology, not only academically, which is less important than spiritual value. You can gain the whole world but lose your soul. But academically, morally, relationally, even what develops relationally, the soft skills that develop because of conversations. I would always laugh because my kids, we didn't actually do vocabulary when my kids were little. But they would have these great vocabulary skills. And one day I realized, oh, it's because we talk. It's because we talk and we read, and it's so organic. And that's what I want parents to understand, is how organic it is, because it's God's design. You're stepping into a flow of what he's designed for you. And I understand, it's a wake-up call for parents, just like it was for me. That first homeschool parent I met 20 years ago who said, I said, how'd you get that fruit in your kids' lives? And she said, homeschooling. I want in on this. So exciting. I probably answered, that was like a soapbox. So I don't even know if I answered the question, but.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. You spent your professional life in social science, and I've always been fascinated with that. And I read a lot of the same studies that you do, the Pew Research and Barna, Nehemiah Institute, and Gen 2 Survey, and all these different studies that Beamer Group, and all those different studies that talk about the trajectory of especially church youth, but even of American youth. And you've done a lot of research on Gen Z and alphas and so forth, these young people that are coming up. And when you look at the stats, even for people who are only vaguely aware of the stats, it's not pretty. The solutions that I hear from even church leaders are, number one, we need to reform our public schools. Number two, we need to get more kids involved in Sunday school, junior church, and youth group. Is that the path forward as you see it? Is that how we're going to fix, the fact that we're down to like 1% of American youth between 18 and 25 that have a biblical worldview? What do you see as the path out of this?
That is the word outsourced from the title, is you've encapsulated it right there. What parents have done is they have outsourced their children to the lowest bidder, the coach, the public school teacher, the prince, the even the Awanas leader, even the Sunday school leader. And that's not lasting change. You might have an amazing person, a really wonderful, sweet teacher for a year, but that's not lasting change. Until we switch the model of discipleship to the shoulders of the parent, we will not see lasting change. And so even when I meet with a lot of, pastors who have private schools, and they see the same fruit. As soon as kids graduate, they become like the world because they haven't been discipled by their parents. And so the lasting change that we need is to get our kids out of traditional education institutions and into the hearts and homes with parents, so that parents are the ones who are taking up that mantle of authority. And so it is a solvable problem. I have all kinds of conversations with parents who tell me all the reasons they can't do this, but the saddest conversation to me is when a parent brings me her icy-hearted teenager, 18-year-old, and says, can you fix my child? And, sadly, unless there's a crisis, your worldview it's done. At 13, it's baked. And so unless there's a major crisis in your life, that shifts something, traditionally, we don't change our worldview after that time. And so parents have to step up. 0 to 6 is when attachment forms. We've got to step up. I have so many powerful studies on the dangers of preschool, the daycare environment. I mean, what it's doing to our nation's kids is so tragic, of course. And now we see the content being taught in there as well. So parents are waking up, which I'm thankful for. But we've got to turn the hearts of parents and children back together. Parents have been captivated by lesser gods. Their hearts have been captivated, and we have to turn their hearts back to their children.
Sounds biblical to me. There's another book that you've written that I have a older version of called Emerge. Yeah. And this is cracking the cocoon of media socialization. And again, with your study into social science and so forth, this will have to be a future podcast because we don't have time today to cover it. But another way that we've outsourced our children, even as homeschoolers, is to screens and digital media. Just touch on that briefly for us. How is that a problem even within the homeschool context? Because we may have pulled them out of school, and yet they can be getting all that trans, LGBTQ, critical race theory, cultural Marxism. They can be getting all of that through TikTok and Snapchat and all that. So speak to that for just a minute.
Absolutely. We used to know when a stranger came in the door, we'd close the door, we wouldn't let a stranger in, but now strangers are coming in through our phones and they're impacting our kids' lives. And so to really be able to disciple that, the heart of a child, we have to know who is influencing them, who's speaking into their lives. And when we look at media use, this is the updated version. I will send you this one because this is a little more contemporary. But when we look at the data on, especially Gen Zs, we have a lot of data. 65% of their screen time, their social time, is screens. So they're communicating with each other. They're connecting that way. And then ironically, anything over 2 hours a day is considered heavy media use. A heavy user of media is 2 hours or more. That's all screens.
That's
and
everybody.
So we look at the average, like 7 hours and 40 minutes, full-time job on media, there's such an influence there. And so, I think, we want to, and the thing is, they're doing that because they're hungry for something else. There's a vacuum. Our kids don't do those kinds of, none of us engage in these types of behavior if there's not a vacuum. It's like if there's a vacuum of male leadership in the culture and the women try to, Jezebel in, and that crushes, then the Ahab, sullen, moany spirit we see in his behavior. And so those vacuums are happening all around us. So as parents, if we're in the game and we're connecting with our kids, they want to be with us. I'm not saying we don't take a break and, watch something, but we need to really guard what's coming into our houses on our screens, of all sizes. And that's one of the things we do, Israel, with Chula Vista Christian University, which again, we have our conference coming up, really cool parenting attachment conference, is we teach our students, we teach all in Socratic circles. So everything is in a circle discussion. It's a mentor, a trusted professor, incredible people who are pouring out their lives in the next generation. And we're talking about that. We're drawing it out. There's no sitting on a back row. I taught 20 years college. You have the students sitting on the back row on their phone. It's not that. And that's why I say college can be, but listen, parents, do your homework on college, because Rick Green will tell you there are 6 Christian colleges left in the US, and that's it. So do your homework. Ask the admissions advisor, can your professor tell the difference between a man and a woman? You might be surprised how many will answer, that's a socio-political question and I can't answer that. Well, run the other direction, because we need to know who's Luke 6:40. The student will become like the teacher. We need to know who's speaking into the lives of our children. That was one of the reasons I founded the university, was to draw in homeschoolers, give them a place where parents could trust that we are speaking and echoing their values, not undermining them.
So you have not abandoned hope for the next generation. You have not just, sort of dusted off your hands and said, well, we have to just sort of say goodbye to this generation of teenagers. You're doing something about it. You're fighting back. So tell us about your school and what makes it different. Yeah,
so we're marketplace focused. Billy Graham said the next wave of discipleship will come through the marketplace, before he passed away. And I love that quote. So we do, training students to go into political science, be difference makers, to go into psychology. There's so much evil in psychology. It's crazy. Whereas the Bible gives us all these beautiful foundations for understanding the human mind and one another. Computer science, we've got to take back that realm. Pre-medicine, the devil's best work, one of our doctors says, is in medicine. So we're sending students out into the world to be difference makers, but the college experience is so powerful. We do a 2-day-a-week model. So I call it homeschool education. It's 2 days a week. They're in the college classroom with our mentors. And then 3 days a week, they're serving their community. They're in their homes. They're working in internships. They're being connected to the larger community. So many students get into college and they get in the college bubble and they have no network outside of that. They have no relationships. They stop going to church. They stop doing things with their family. That's not God's plan. We need to be integrated. And so our system integrates students. And the other thing was keeping it really affordable. So we call it debt-free education. You look at colleges in California, they're $40,000 a year to go to college. That's a crazy amount of debt that most students will never be able to pay off. So we're a debt-free model. So we're 1/4 of the cost of any school in the state of California, any private school. And so we are debt-free, mentor-driven, Bible-based education for the next generation. And yes, I have hope that we can turn it around.
So what do you see as far as being the future of online options with your school?
Yeah, so we're offering right now, we do pod academies. If they have a homeschool group in 11th and 12th grade, they can start with us and do their homeschool academy pod right there. And so we have the classes with our trusted mentors who, we've gone through, we know who they are. We know they're going to be Luke 640 mentors, and we have that pod right there. So we can zoom in. At first I was not a fan because I wanted to keep that mentor relationship. That's really vital, but we found a way to do that so that we can keep it Socratic and keep it alive and mentor driven, because that's really important for me.
So give us the website for the school so that parents and students who are interested in considering this very different approach to higher education can learn more.
Yeah, cvcu.us. That's Chula Vista Christian University. If you're on Instagram, it's at Chula Vista U. And we have classes all summer. And then we have classes coming up, obviously, our fall class programs, 8-degree programs that we offer in that mentor-driven program. And then we have our conference, which is training. And we're training homeschool parents. We call it kindergarten through college. We don't want anyone to have an excuse. So we have a homeschool academy that meets on our grounds, and then we have all the way through our college students. So 11th and 12th graders can start college with us. If they're homeschooled, they can start college with us, and they can finish half of their college by the time that they graduate from high school. So it's a really exciting opportunity for them to be in a trusted environment, again, where we're not going to undermine their faith. We're not yoked to a woke government system. We don't take any federal funding so that the government can't tell us anti-biblical teachings have to reign in our classrooms, because it's just not going to happen on our watch.
Then your conference, is that California specific? Is that an in-person only event?
We have some online options for those sessions. We're doing trainings and things like My Father's World. David Hazel is going to be here to teach it for the homeschoolers who want to use that curriculum, and the principal approach we're using as well. And then our trusted professors who are attachment specialists. So we'll have some options for that as well, and you can find those on the conference page. It's called our Refresh Conference. It comes up in a pop-up when you go to cvcu.us. And then our pastors, training pastors, outreaching, reaching out to pastors across the nation as well. Because if we all work together, if parents and pastors would just work together, we could literally shift the culture of the next generation. And the serious, sobering fact is that if we don't, we face extinction of the local church. I mean, really, it's that dramatic right now. You can't look at the numbers and not be concerned. We have to wake up. It's time to step up and speak up right now.
So where do you recommend people purchase your books?
Yeah, so we have Kindle versions on Amazon, and then on the cvcu.us page, we have all of our merchandise there. So I have all my books and materials there. Outsourcethebook.com also is a direct link to the latest book. And then on my podcast, Israel, as you do, I basically go through all the materials. So if you're not a reader, well, become a reader. But if you're not a reader, you can listen in. I know it's very convenient. So I've gone through all the chapters of at least the last 3 books I've written. And my next one coming out is The Bachelor Epidemic. And we're going to help parents understand how they can raise kids who value the institution of marriage. Now that's a controversy in today's, yeah, we'll talk more about that. That's a controversy in today's culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that as a completely separate episode. So when that comes out, please let us know so that we can have you back on to discuss that topic. And tell us the name of your podcast and how people can subscribe to it.
Yeah, so I have a radio show. It's called K-Praise Radio, and that's on Saturdays at 10:30 p.m., kprz.com, Pacific time. And then my podcast is The Communication Architect, and that's on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, all the channels.
Excellent. And then finally, are there ways that people can connect with you via social media?
Yeah, absolutely. At Dr. Lisa Dunne, just DrLisadunne is my Instagram, and Lisa Dunne is my Facebook, and then LinkedIn, Dr. Lisa Dunne, and Chula Vista U is our university page at Chula Vista U.
Excellent. Well, I know we're going to have to end up doing multiple episodes here in the future because there's so much material that you cover. There's so much information and wisdom that you have made available to the Christian community. And I thank you for that. I thank you for the tireless work that you've done. And we didn't even get to talk about your new role with Christian Home Educators of California, but you are also involved with that. Do you want to speak to that for a second?
Well, sure. I mean, we've always been big fans of Chia and the tremendous work they're doing. Just really happy to see them thriving in the state of California, and every state really. Whenever we start homeschool academies, we always point them to those state agencies. And when I say state, obviously I mean Christian agencies, but representing the state that, those wells were dug for us. Probably, I think it's been 30 years now since, Mike Ferris and Mike Smith dug those wells, but that's the position we're all in right now. We need to dig wells like that for the future generation, because it is, it's going to be a dark season for America if we don't step up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm grateful that you are doing that for this generation. And again, we certainly want to have you back on in the future, but thank you. Give us your website one more time.
Thank you. It's cvcu.us. And if you're a pastor and you want to join the rescue mission, drlisadunne.com, drlisadunne.com. Thanks so much, Israel.
Yeah, and that'd be a great place too if you would like to have Dr. Dunne speak at your conference. If you have an education conference or a Christian conference where you'd like her to come and talk about either education or just even the state of where this next generation is sociologically, the whole issue of media, as she said, the issue of relationships, and there's just so much that could be explored there. So if you have a youth conference or you have a conference of pastors or Christian professionals or people who want to learn more about how they can get involved in Christian education or become more proactive in developing solutions that work, Dr. Dunne would be a great speaker for your upcoming event. So thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to next time.
Thank you, Israel. Have a great day.
Thank you.